My name is Elena Brooks. I'm 34 years old, and I've spent the last 11 years working as a hospice nurse in a small town outside Portland. I've sat beside hundreds of people during the final hours of their lives. I've learned that death rarely changes who people are. It simply removes their ability to keep pretending. I understood that lesson better than I wanted to on the morning of my grandfather's funeral. My older brother looked me in the eye, stepped in front of the church doors, and said quietly, "Grandpa didn't want you here." Then he pulled the doors shut. I remember staring at my own reflection in the stained glass for a few seconds before I realized what had just happened. Everyone inside had already taken their seats. The service had started. And I was standing outside. I didn't argue. Not at first. Something about the way he avoided looking directly at me made me pause. It wasn't confidence. It was fear. At the time, I thought the funeral was the worst thing he could take from me. I was wrong. Because less than an hour later, our grandfather's attorney opened a sealed envelope that no one in the family knew existed. Inside was a letter. A letter that would quietly unravel 23 years of carefully arranged lies. But before I tell you what happened that afternoon, let me take you back to where it really began. If you enjoy thoughtful family stories where the truth unfolds one piece at a time, you're in the right place. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to hear your story too. Now, back to mine. Grandpa, Walter Brooks, was 87 when he passed away. Officially, the cause was heart failure. Unofficially, I think he had simply become tired. Hospice teaches you to recognize the difference. His room had become quieter during those final weeks. He spent more time looking out the window than watching television. The crossword puzzles remained unfinished beside his chair. His reading glasses rested on top of an old leather notebook that no one else seemed interested in. I noticed details like that because noticing was part of my job. Sometimes the smallest things tell the biggest stories. Grandpa never spoke dramatically. Even near the end, he preferred ordinary conversations. He asked whether I'd finally repaired the loose fence behind my house. He reminded me to rotate the tomatoes in my garden before the weather turned. He wanted to know if my coffee maker was still leaking onto the kitchen counter. Looking back, I realize he never wasted words. That thought has stayed with me. The last time I visited him alone was 4 days before he died. The afternoon sunlight stretched across the wooden floor of his living room. A half-finished cup of black coffee sat beside his favorite chair. It had gone cold, but he hadn't asked me to warm it. Instead, he watched me organize the stack of mail that had gathered near the front door. "You still straighten everything before you leave," he said with a faint smile. "I always have." "You got that from your grandmother." I smiled. "I thought I got it from working in hospitals." He chuckled softly. "No." Then he became unusually quiet. His eyes drifted toward the hallway where an old family photograph hung slightly crooked. I stood to straighten it. "Leave it," he said. His voice wasn't louder, just firmer. I sat back down. He folded his hands together and looked at me for several long seconds. "There are things families protect," he finally said. "And there are things they hide." I waited for him to continue. He didn't. Instead, he reached for my hand. "If you ever feel like the room has turned against you." He stopped. A car door slammed outside. The moment disappeared. When I asked him what he meant, he simply smiled the same tired smile I'd seen many times before. "You'll understand someday." I thought he was talking about grief. I filed the conversation away and didn't think much of it afterward. 4 days later, he was gone. 3 days after that, my own brother refused to let me attend his funeral. And standing outside those church doors, I had no idea that someone inside was carrying the one thing my grandfather had left behind specifically for me. I stood outside the church longer than I care to admit. The service inside continued behind heavy wooden doors. I could hear only faint pieces of it, the organ, a few voices singing, someone clearing their throat before speaking. Every sound reminded me that I was supposed to be in there. My phone stayed silent. No one came outside. That hurt more than my brother's words. I found an empty bench beneath a maple tree across the parking lot. The October air carried the smell of damp leaves and fresh coffee from the fellowship hall next door. Volunteers had arrived early that morning, arranging trays of pastries and paper cups, expecting the family to gather afterward like every funeral before it. Families have rituals. Sometimes they comfort us. Sometimes they hide us. I watched relatives arrive late and hurry through the doors. A few recognized me. Some offered an awkward wave before quickly looking away. Others pretended not to see me at all. That was new. The Brooks family had never been openly affectionate, but we had always been polite. Something had shifted. I just didn't know when. My brother, Daniel Brooks, was 38. He owned a successful construction company and had inherited our father's steady confidence. People trusted him easily. He spoke slowly, shook hands firmly, and rarely appeared uncertain. Growing up, adults called him dependable. I believed them. For a long time. His wife, Rachel, 36, worked as a real estate agent. She had an effortless smile that made every conversation sound pleasant, even when she was saying something difficult. She was careful with words. Too careful, I would later realize. Then there was our father, Thomas Brooks, 64, a retired firefighter. Dad wasn't cruel. He simply preferred peace over questions. If avoiding conflict required ignoring uncomfortable facts, that was usually the choice he made. My mother, Linda, 62, had spent most of her career teaching elementary school. She believed every disagreement could be solved with enough patience. Except family disagreements. Those were quietly folded away like old tablecloths and stored where nobody had to see them. I often wondered where I fit among them. I had moved only 20 minutes away after nursing school, yet somehow I had become the relative everyone remembered to invite last. I told myself adulthood simply made people busy. That explanation felt reasonable. Until it didn't. The funeral ended just before noon. People began leaving the church in small groups. Conversations drifted across the parking lot. He looked peaceful. It was a beautiful service. He would have loved the flowers. No one mentioned me sitting under the tree. Finally, my cousin Megan Carter, 31, a middle school counselor, walked over carrying 2 paper cups of coffee. She handed one to me without saying anything. It had already started getting cold. I tried talking to Daniel, she said after a moment. I looked at her. He said Grandpa made it clear you weren't supposed to be there. Did he believe that? She hesitated. I don't know. That answer lingered between us. Because Megan almost always knew. She had been the quiet observer in our family long before I became a nurse. If she wasn't certain, something was very wrong. A few minutes later, Daniel finally walked across the parking lot. His black suit jacket was unbuttoned, and he looked exhausted. Not heartbroken. Exhausted. There's a private family meeting at Mr. Harper's office in an hour, he said. Mr. Harper was Grandpa's attorney. You don't need to come. I stood slowly. I'm family. His expression tightened. The paperwork doesn't concern you. Paperwork. It seemed like an odd word to use after a funeral. What paperwork? Estate matters. I can decide for myself whether they concern me. Rachel appeared beside him before he answered. She placed a hand lightly on his arm. Elena, she said gently, today isn't the day. I looked from one face to the other. Neither of them looked surprised that I was asking questions. They looked prepared. That was different. Prepared people usually know something you don't. Daniel checked his watch. We're already running late. Without another word, they walked toward their car. I watched them leave. Megan remained beside me. She stared at the parking lot for several seconds before speaking. Did Grandpa ever mention changing his will? No. He asked me something strange last month. I turned toward her. What did he ask? He wanted to know whether attorneys are allowed to keep letters private, even from family. The coffee in my hand had gone completely cold. And for the first time that morning, I began to wonder if Grandpa had been preparing for something far bigger than his own funeral. At exactly 1 o'clock, every member of my family gathered at Mr. Harper's law office. Everyone. Except me. And I had the uneasy feeling that someone intended to keep it that way. I didn't drive home. Instead, I parked across the street from Harper & Wells Legal Services, a modest brick building with white trim and a narrow porch that overlooked the town square. The office hadn't changed since I was a teenager. The same brass mailbox hung beside the entrance. The same oak tree shaded the front steps. Even the flower boxes still held purple petunias that Mr. Harper's assistant replaced every spring. Ordinary places have a way of making extraordinary moments feel unreal. I watched my family's cars fill the small parking lot one by one. Dad arrived first. Then Mom. Daniel and Rachel pulled in together. My Aunt Carol Whitman, 61, a retired bank manager with a habit of correcting everyone else's memories, came next. Behind her was her husband, George, 63, a mechanic who rarely offered an opinion unless someone asked directly. Last came my cousin Megan. She glanced across the street and spotted my car. Instead of walking inside immediately, she crossed the road. "You really stayed," she said. "I wasn't invited." "That doesn't usually stop you." "It does today." She leaned against my passenger door. "I don't like this." "Neither do I." She lowered her voice. "Something feels rehearsed." That word stayed with me. Rehearsed. It matched the feeling I'd had since the church. As a hospice nurse, I'd seen families prepare themselves before difficult conversations. They practiced what they would say. They agreed on details. They repeated the same explanations until everyone sounded convincing. Sometimes they even started believing them. I had seen that look before. Daniel had worn it all morning. Megan glanced toward the office windows. "I should go." Before leaving, she hesitated. "Do you remember Grandpa's 75th birthday?" It seemed like an odd question. "Of course. He gave everyone photo albums." I smiled faintly. "I still have mine." "So do I." She looked thoughtful. "Did you ever notice yours had fewer pictures than everyone else's?" I blinked. "No." I counted once. "Why would you count them?" She shrugged. "I was 12. Children notice strange things. Adults usually explain them away." I watched her disappear inside the law office. For a few minutes, I considered driving away. Instead, I reached into my glove compartment and pulled out the small leather notebook I always carried. Years of nursing had taught me to write things down before memory softened their edges. I opened to a blank page. At the top I wrote, "Grandpa's funeral." Then I listed everything that felt wrong. Daniel blocked the church entrance. No one questioned it. Estate meeting immediately afterward. Paperwork. Grandpa's comment about families hiding things. Letter mentioned by Megan. As I looked at the list, another memory surfaced. It was from nearly 8 years earlier. Grandpa had been recovering from knee surgery, and I'd stayed with him for a weekend. While organizing prescription bottles in the kitchen, I'd opened the pantry looking for tea. Behind several canned goods sat 3 metal lockboxes. One was labeled taxes. One said military. The third had no label at all. When Grandpa noticed me looking at them, he calmly closed the pantry door. "Some things belong to tomorrow," he'd said. I never asked about the boxes again. At the time, it seemed respectful. Now, it felt like a missed opportunity. My phone buzzed. A message from Mom. "Where are you?" I stared at it for several seconds before replying. "Outside." She responded almost immediately. "Please don't come in. It'll only upset Daniel today." Not. "It'll upset everyone." Not. "This isn't the right time." Only Daniel. That small difference mattered. People often reveal priorities without realizing it. I slipped the phone back into my purse. Rain began tapping softly against the windshield. The courthouse clock across the square chimed once. 1 o'clock. The meeting had started. For nearly 40 minutes, nothing happened. People entered. No one left. Then the front door opened. Mr. Nathan Harper, 70, Grandpa's attorney for more than 3 decades, stepped onto the porch. He wasn't looking toward the parking lot. He was looking directly across the street. At me. He lifted one hand and motioned for me to come over. Before I could even open my car door, Daniel rushed out behind him. "What are you doing?" Daniel demanded. Mr. Harper didn't answer immediately. Instead, he adjusted his glasses and spoke with the same calm tone I'd heard him use since childhood. "I've just been informed," he said, "that someone important was told not to attend." Daniel's face lost its color. Mr. Harper looked back at me. "Ms. Brooks." He paused. "Your grandfather left very specific instructions." And judging by the expression on my brother's face, those instructions were never supposed to reach me. The rain had picked up by the time I crossed the street. Tiny drops clung to my jacket, and the sidewalk had begun reflecting the gray afternoon sky. I remember wiping my shoes on the office mat before stepping inside, almost out of habit. Hospitals teach you to avoid tracking water across clean floors. Some habits stay with you. The reception area smelled faintly of old books and fresh coffee. Framed certificates lined the walls, and a grandfather clock ticked steadily in the corner. No one spoke as I entered. My family was gathered around a long conference table. Every chair was occupied except one. The empty chair sat beside Mr. Harper. It already had a folder placed neatly in front of it. He looked at me. "Please sit." Daniel stood before I could move. "This meeting has already started." Mr. Harper met his eyes calmly. "It was never supposed to begin without Ms. Brooks." Silence settled over the room. I pulled out the chair and sat down. The folder in front of me had my name typed across the tab. Elena Brooks. I hadn't expected that. Neither had anyone else. I could feel every pair of eyes on me. Mr. Harper folded his hands. "For the record," he said, "Walter Brooks left written instructions regarding today's meeting. Those instructions required the presence of every beneficiary before any estate documents were discussed." Dad frowned. "Beneficiary?" Mr. Harper nodded once. "Yes." I noticed Daniel looking down at the table instead of at the attorney. That struck me as unusual. Daniel almost always maintained eye contact during difficult conversations. Today, he couldn't. Mr. Harper opened a leather portfolio. Mr. Brooks anticipated that there might be misunderstandings. The word sounded carefully chosen. He left additional written guidance should any family member be excluded from either the funeral or this meeting. No one moved. Even the clock seemed louder. Rachel shifted slightly in her chair. Mom clasped her hands together. Aunt Carol stared at Daniel. Slowly. Quietly. The room began changing. Not because anyone had said anything dramatic. because people were realizing they did not all know the same story. Mr. Harper looked directly at Daniel. Would you like to explain why your sister was prevented from attending her grandfather's funeral? Daniel cleared his throat. Dad and I believed we were following Grandpa's wishes. Mr. Harper tilted his head slightly. And what exactly were those wishes? Daniel hesitated. He didn't want unnecessary conflict. Mr. Harper waited. Nothing else came. I see. He reached into his portfolio and removed a single sheet of paper. I have Mr. Brooks' written funeral instructions. He adjusted his glasses before reading. My funeral is to remain simple. Every member of my immediate family is welcome. No one is to be excluded for any reason. He placed the paper flat on the table. I believe those words are fairly clear. No one spoke. Dad slowly turned toward Daniel. You told me. He began quietly. Daniel interrupted. I thought. No, Mr. Harper said gently. You told him. There is a difference. That sentence hung over the room. As a nurse, I'd learned that people often hide behind uncertain language. I assumed. I misunderstood. I thought. Facts usually sound much simpler. Daniel rubbed his forehead. Rachel reached for his hand. He pulled it away. For the first time that day, I saw uncertainty replace confidence. Mr. Harper continued. There is another matter. He removed a thick cream-colored envelope from the portfolio. The paper had yellowed slightly around the edges. Across the front, written in Grandpa's familiar handwriting, were 6 words. To be opened only if necessary. I recognized his handwriting instantly. He still wrote every grocery list with a fountain pen. Mr. Harper rested one hand on the envelope. Mr. Brooks instructed me not to open this unless someone attempted to prevent Elena from attending either today's funeral or this legal meeting. The room became perfectly still. Even Daniel looked surprised. You mean? Mom whispered. Yes. Mr. Harper nodded. He expected this possibility. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain outside. Grandpa hadn't simply prepared a will. He had prepared for someone's behavior. He had predicted it. That realization unsettled me more than anything else. Because people don't prepare for betrayal unless they've already seen the first signs of it. Mr. Harper carefully broke the old wax seal. He unfolded several handwritten pages. His eyes scanned the first paragraph. Then, unexpectedly, he stopped reading. He looked up slowly. Not at me. At my father. Thomas, he said quietly, before I continue. There is something in this letter you need to answer for. My father's face drained of color. And in that moment, I realized Grandpa's final letter wasn't written to expose just one person. It was written for the entire family. No one spoke. The only sound in the conference room was the steady ticking of the grandfather clock near the reception desk. It seemed louder now. Almost impatient. Mr. Harper lowered the first page of the letter and looked at my father for another long moment. Dad had always been a steady man. During his years as a firefighter, he had walked into burning buildings without losing his composure. Now he couldn't seem to look at a single sheet of paper. I'll continue, Mr. Harper said quietly. He adjusted his glasses and began reading. If Nathan is reading this letter aloud, then someone has ignored my final request. That saddens me, but it does not surprise me. His voice filled the room without becoming dramatic. Families rarely fall apart all at once. They drift apart one quiet decision at a time. I felt my throat tighten. That sounded exactly like Grandpa. Simple. Patient. Honest. Mr. Harper continued. Elena, if you're hearing these words, I want you to know something first. None of what follows is your fault. I looked down at the table. Somehow hearing my name in Grandpa's handwriting made the room feel smaller. You've spent your career caring for strangers during the hardest days of their lives. I only wish our own family had shown you the same kindness. No one moved. I noticed Mom quietly wiping one eye. She wasn't crying. Not yet. Just holding back tears. Mr. Harper turned the page. Thomas. Dad finally looked up. 24 years ago, I asked you to promise me something. Dad closed his eyes. Only for a second. It was enough. You promised that when the time came, you would tell Elena the truth yourself. My heart skipped. The truth? About what? I looked toward Dad, expecting confusion. Instead, I saw recognition. He knew exactly what Grandpa meant. I waited. Mr. Harper kept reading. Every birthday, every Christmas, every graduation, I believed you would finally keep your word. Dad's shoulders sagged. I waited until she became an adult. Another page turned. Then I waited until she finished college. Another pause. Then I waited because there always seemed to be another excuse. The room had become painfully quiet. I glanced toward Daniel. He wasn't looking at Dad. He was staring at the envelope itself. As if he'd seen it before. That thought came and went quickly. But I didn't forget it. I've learned not to ignore first impressions. They often arrive before proof does. Mr. Harper placed the letter down for a moment. There are additional documents. He reached beneath the table and lifted a narrow archive box. It was old. The cardboard corners had softened with age. Across the front was a handwritten label. Brooks Family, Personal. Mr. Harper removed the lid carefully. Inside were neatly organized folders. Each had a date. Each had Grandpa's handwriting. No one had expected physical records. Certainly not this many. He removed the first folder. These were left in my custody over several years. He opened it. Inside were copies of certified letters, legal correspondence, handwritten notes, and what appeared to be notarized statements. Everything had dates. Everything had signatures. Hospice nursing had made me appreciate documentation. Good records tell stories that memory cannot. Mr. Harper selected one document. This is a signed statement from Walter Brooks dated 9 years ago. He read only one sentence. If I die before Thomas tells Elena the truth, Nathan Harper is authorized to do so. Dad whispered, Walter. His voice broke. It was the first time I'd ever heard it happen. Mom reached toward him instinctively. He gently shook his head. Not now. Mr. Harper continued sorting through the files. Medical paperwork. Property records. Bank correspondence. Several sealed envelopes. One faded photograph tucked inside a protective sleeve. He stopped when he reached a small cream-colored envelope addressed simply. For Elena. Unlike the larger letter, this one had never been opened. My name was written in Grandpa's careful handwriting. The same handwriting that had written birthday cards every year since I was 5. Mr. Harper handed it across the table. It belongs to you. My fingers hesitated before touching it. The paper felt surprisingly heavy. Not because of its weight. Because of everything it might contain. Before I could break the seal, Daniel suddenly pushed back his chair. Don't. It wasn't loud. But it stopped everyone. His eyes remained fixed on the envelope. You shouldn't read that. For the first time all day. My brother sounded afraid. Not guilty. Afraid. And there is a difference. Daniel's voice lingered in the room long after he stopped speaking. You shouldn't read that. No one answered him. Mr. Harper rested both hands on the conference table. I don't believe that's your decision. Daniel swallowed but didn't sit down. I'm only saying that opening it now isn't necessary. It became necessary the moment you attempted to keep your sister away, Mr. Harper replied. His tone never changed. That was something I admired about him. He didn't argue. He simply stated facts and allowed them to stand on their own. I'd met physicians who did the same thing when delivering difficult diagnoses. The truth didn't need volume. It only needed clarity. I looked down at the envelope in my hands. The paper was smooth except for one slightly worn corner. Grandpa must have carried it more than once before leaving it with Mr. Harper. There was a faint scent of cedar, the same smell that filled the old cabinet in Grandpa's study. Small things survive longer than we expect. I slipped a finger beneath the seal. No one tried to stop me. Inside was a single folded sheet and a small brass key taped to the bottom. The key was old. Its edges had been polished by years of use. I stared at it for a moment before unfolding the letter. The handwriting was unmistakable. Every line leaned slightly to the right, neat and deliberate. I began reading silently. Elena. If you're holding this letter, then events unfolded almost exactly as I feared. Before you read anything else, I need you to take the key. It opens the middle lockbox in my pantry. The one without a label. My breath caught. The pantry. The 3 lockboxes. I hadn't thought about them in years. Grandpa had. I continued reading. Nathan already knows about the box. He also knows not to open it unless you are present. I looked toward Mr. Harper. He gave a small nod. That's correct. Daniel closed his eyes. Only briefly. But I noticed. I always noticed. The letter continued. Everything inside belongs to the truth, not to any one person. Read every document before you reach conclusions. Some people lied because they were selfish. Others lied because they were afraid. Learn the difference before you decide whom to forgive. I read that sentence twice. As a nurse, I'd watched families break apart over assumptions made in hospital waiting rooms. Fear often disguised itself as anger. Shame often looked like silence. Grandpa understood people better than most. I folded the letter carefully. There was nothing else inside. Just the key. Mr. Harper reached for another folder. I believe it's time. He unlocked a cabinet behind his desk and placed the unlabeled lockbox on the conference table. For a second, I simply stared at it. The gray metal surface had a small scratch near the latch. I remembered making that scratch. I'd been 10 years old and accidentally bumped it with Grandpa's toolbox while helping him clean the garage. He'd laughed and said, "Now I'll always know which box is mine." Memory has strange timing. My hands were steadier than I expected as I picked up the brass key. It fit perfectly. The lock clicked. No one moved closer. Slowly, I lifted the lid. Inside, everything had been arranged with remarkable care. A thick stack of sealed envelopes. A leather-bound journal. Several photographs bundled together with a faded blue ribbon. A small velvet pouch. And, beneath them all, a worn manila file stamped with 2 words in red ink. Confidential records. Mr. Harper looked at the journal first. "I've never read it," he said. "Walter instructed me not to." I nodded. "I'll read it." As I reached for the journal, one loose photograph slipped free and landed face up on the table. It showed Grandpa standing beside a much younger man. Dad. Both were smiling. Between them stood a little girl, maybe 3 years old, holding Grandpa's hand. I leaned closer. The girl had dark curls, a yellow raincoat. And she wasn't me. I looked at Mom. She looked just as confused. Then I looked at Dad. He didn't look confused at all. He looked like a man who had spent decades hoping that photograph would never be seen. I picked it up carefully. Who is she? No one answered. Not even Daniel. And somehow, their silence was beginning to tell me more than their words ever had. No one answered my question. The photograph rested in my hands, its edges worn smooth from years of being handled. On the back, Grandpa had written a date. May 14, 1999. Nothing else. No names. No location. Just the date. I looked at the little girl again. She couldn't have been older than 3. She was smiling at whoever held the camera, one hand wrapped around Grandpa's fingers, the other clutching a stuffed rabbit with one ear folded over. Children usually don't fake smiles. She looked happy. I asked who she is, I said. My voice remained calm. Years in hospice had taught me that repeating a question quietly often accomplished more than asking it loudly. Dad finally spoke. Elena. He stopped. The words seemed unwilling to come. Mr. Harper folded Grandpa's letter and placed it beside the lockbox. I think Walter intended the documents to answer that. He opened the manila file marked confidential records and carefully removed the first document. It wasn't a birth certificate. It was a court record. The county seal was still visible despite its age. He scanned the page before looking at me. This concerns a guardianship hearing. Guardianship? I asked. He nodded. 27 years ago. That immediately caught my attention. 27 years. I was 34. The dates didn't seem to fit. Mr. Harper continued. The hearing involved your grandparents. Grandpa and Grandma? I glanced at Mom. She looked just as surprised as I felt. Mr. Harper laid the document on the table where everyone could see it. Across the top were the names. Walter Brooks. Margaret Brooks. Petitioners. Below them was another name. One I had never heard before. Emily Grace Lawson. I read it twice. Then a third time. It meant nothing to me. Who is Emily Lawson? I asked. No one answered. Again. Silence has different shapes. Sometimes it comes from confusion. Sometimes it comes from fear. This silence belonged to people who already knew. Mr. Harper opened the leather journal. A yellow bookmark had been tucked halfway through. Walter marked this page. He began reading aloud. Thomas keeps believing that protecting children means protecting secrets. Dad lowered his head. He doesn't understand that secrets grow heavier every year. Another page. One day Elena will ask questions. When she does, I hope someone finally loves her enough to answer honestly. Mom covered her mouth. I had never seen her cry in front of the family. A single tear slipped down her cheek. Dad still hadn't looked at me. I realized something then. Whatever this truth was, Mom hadn't known all of it either. Grandpa had written for years. Dates filled the margins. Small observations. Family gatherings. Birthdays. Christmas dinners. Conversations. It wasn't the diary of an angry man. It was the record of someone quietly preserving facts while everyone else relied on memory. As a nurse, I trusted written charts more than recollections. People forget. Records usually don't. Mr. Harper removed another folder. This may help explain why Walter documented everything. Inside was a notarized statement signed 18 years earlier. He handed it directly to me. I read the first paragraph myself. My pulse slowed instead of quickening. That happens when shock becomes too large to process all at once. The statement described a meeting between Grandpa, Dad, and Mr. Harper. Its purpose was simple. To discuss when and how. I should be told the circumstances surrounding Emily Grace Lawson. The same name. Again. I looked up. Dad. He finally met my eyes. I don't know who Emily is. His shoulders dropped. I know. Then tell me. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Instead, Daniel spoke. You don't understand. I turned toward him. Then help me. His face had gone pale. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Mr. Harper looked at him steadily. No. He paused. It wasn't supposed to happen at all. Daniel stared at the floor. Mr. Harper reached into the bottom of the archive box one final time. There is one last document. Unlike the others, it was sealed in a clear protective sleeve. Across the front was a certified copy stamp. The title was impossible to miss. Amended birth certificate. My name appeared near the top of the page. Below it, where my parents' names should have been, one line had been crossed out decades earlier. Another had been added. Very carefully. Very legally. I stopped breathing for what felt like several seconds. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't certain who my parents actually were. I stared at the amended birth certificate until the words began to blur. Not because I couldn't read them. Because I wasn't ready to understand them. Mr. Harper waited. No one rushed me. That was the kindest thing anyone in the room had done all day. Finally, I looked at the section listing my parents. My father's name hadn't changed. Thomas Brooks was still there. My mother's had. The original name had been legally amended when I was 4 years old. The current certificate listed Linda Brooks. Beneath the amendment was a court order authorizing the change. I looked at my mother. She wasn't looking at the document. She was looking at me. There was fear in her eyes. But there was something else too. Relief. As though carrying the secret had become heavier than revealing it. I don't understand, I said quietly. Mom took a slow breath. I always hoped you'd hear it from us. I waited. Instead of speaking, she reached into her purse and removed a small, worn photograph. She slid it across the table. It showed a young woman sitting on the porch of Grandpa's house. She couldn't have been older than 25. Dark curls. The same smile as the little girl in the earlier photograph. The resemblance was impossible to miss. That's Emily, Mom said. I studied the picture. There was something familiar about her face. Not because I'd seen it before. Because every morning, I saw pieces of it in the bathroom mirror. The same eyes. The same eyebrows. Even the small curve of her smile. Who was she? Dad answered this time. Your mother. The room disappeared. Not literally. Just emotionally. Everything beyond those 3 words seemed to fade into the background. I looked from Dad to Mom. Then back to the photograph. My mother? Dad nodded once. Your biological mother. No one spoke for several seconds. I noticed the rain tapping against the office windows. The coffee on the conference table had gone cold. Someone's phone vibrated once before falling silent. Ordinary sounds. Life continuing while mine quietly rearranged itself. I was told. I began. Mom finished the sentence for me. That I gave birth to you. I looked at her. You didn't? She shook her head slowly. No. There was no anger in her voice. Only sadness. I became your mother. Those words settled differently. Not as a defense. As a truth. Mr. Harper opened Grandpa's journal to another marked page. He read only a few lines. Linda never tried to replace Emily. She only tried to raise Elena the way Emily asked her to. I turned sharply. What do you mean, asked her? Dad closed his eyes. Emily was my younger sister. For a moment, I couldn't connect the sentence to anything else. His younger sister. That meant Grandpa hadn't hidden a stranger. He had hidden his own daughter. I looked again at the photograph. Emily Brooks. Not Emily Lawson. The court papers suddenly made more sense. Lawson must have been her married name. When did she die? I asked. Dad's voice barely rose above a whisper. She didn't. The words landed harder than everything else. I stared at him. What? Emily is alive. No one moved. Not even Daniel. I felt my heartbeat become strangely calm. Shock sometimes does that. It strips away panic and leaves only questions. If she's alive. I struggled to finish the sentence. Then why did she disappear? Dad's eyes filled with tears. Because I told everyone she wanted to. I looked at him without speaking. He continued. Emily was struggling after your father left. She became seriously ill after you were born. She asked us to care for you while she recovered. He paused. I agreed. His next words came slowly. When she got better. He swallowed hard. I couldn't bear the thought of losing you. The room fell silent again. Mom quietly wiped another tear. I argued with him, she said. 4 months. She looked at me. I wanted him to tell the truth. And why didn't he? She lowered her eyes. Because I chose to stay. No excuses. No dramatic speech. Just one honest sentence. Mr. Harper reached into the archive box one final time. There is one more piece of evidence. He placed a thick envelope on the table. Its return address was from a rehabilitation center in Colorado. The postmark was 29 years old. Across the front, written in faded blue ink, were 7 words. To Thomas, please bring my daughter home. The envelope had never been opened. Dad looked at it as though he had seen a ghost. His hands began to shake. Very quietly, he admitted the one thing Grandpa had spent decades documenting. I knew she wanted you back. And with that single sentence, the truth no longer needed assumptions. It finally had evidence. No one reached for the unopened envelope. It remained in the center of the table, untouched. 29 years. That was how long a single decision had shaped every relationship in our family. Mr. Harper looked at my father. I believe this should come from you. Dad nodded slowly. He picked up the envelope with both hands, as though it might fall apart if he wasn't careful. I couldn't open it, he said quietly. His voice was rough now. I knew what it would say. He turned the envelope over. The seal was still intact. I told myself I was protecting you. No one interrupted him. I kept saying that if I waited a little longer, the timing would be better. He gave a tired smile that disappeared almost immediately. There was always another birthday. Another pause. Another school year. Another Christmas. I kept postponing the truth until postponing it became my whole life. Mom lowered her eyes. I let him, she said. I was afraid that if the truth came out, I'd lose you. I looked at her for a long moment. You were my mother. She blinked. You packed my lunches. You stayed up with me when I had the flu. You taught me how to drive. A tear rolled down her cheek. None of that changes. She covered her face with one hand. I never wanted to take anyone's place. I know. For the first time that afternoon, I reached across the table and held her hand. It didn't erase what had happened. But it acknowledged what had also been true. She had loved me. Both things could exist at the same time. I had learned that years ago while sitting beside patients and their families. People are rarely only one thing. Daniel finally spoke. I found Grandpa's instructions 2 weeks before he died. Everyone turned toward him. I was helping him organize his desk. He looked at me. I wasn't searching for them. I believe you, I said. He looked surprised. I read enough to realize there was a letter for Mr. Harper. His shoulders slumped. I thought if you missed the funeral, maybe the letter would never be opened. Mr. Harper gently corrected him. Walter anticipated that possibility. Daniel nodded. I know that now. He rubbed his forehead. I convinced myself I was protecting Dad. He looked at our father. I didn't think about what I was doing to Elena. Dad looked older than he had that morning. I'm the one responsible. No, Daniel replied. We both are. The distinction mattered. Responsibility had finally stopped moving from one person to another. Each of them was accepting his own part. Mr. Harper opened the final envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter from Emily. The ink had faded, but every word remained readable. He handed it directly to me. This belongs to you. I unfolded it carefully. My sweet Elena. If you're old enough to read this someday, then life didn't happen the way I prayed it would. I swallowed. I'm getting stronger every week. The doctors believe I'll be home soon. Tell her I never stopped counting the days. My hands trembled slightly. Thomas, if you're reading this first, please don't let my little girl believe I abandoned her. I stopped. The room blurred again. Not because of tears. Because an entire lifetime of assumptions had quietly collapsed. I looked at the date. Emily had written the letter just 3 months after entering rehabilitation. 3 months. Not years. 3. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back inside its envelope. No one said anything. There wasn't much left to say. The evidence had answered every question that mattered. Grandpa hadn't tried to punish anyone. He had simply preserved the truth until someone was willing to hear it. Mr. Harper cleared his throat. There is one final instruction from Walter. He opened the last page of the journal. Nathan, if Elena learns the truth after I'm gone, ask her only one question. He looked directly at me. Would you like to know where Emily is today? I didn't answer immediately. For 34 years, I had believed one story. In a single afternoon, I had learned another. I took a slow breath. Then I nodded. Yes. Mr. Harper smiled gently. She lives less than 2 hours from here. Everything inside me became still. After all these years, my biological mother wasn't just alive. She was close enough that, before sunset, I could finally meet her. I didn't leave immediately. That surprised even me. For years, I had unknowingly lived within driving distance of the woman who had given birth to me. Every instinct told me to get in my car and leave. Instead, I stayed where I was. Some moments deserve patience. Grandpa had waited decades for the truth to reach me. I could wait another hour to understand it fully. Mr. Harper slid a small card across the table. On it was a name, an address, and a phone number. Emily asked me to give this to you only if you learned the truth willingly, he said. She never wanted your life interrupted by another secret. I folded the card and placed it inside my wallet. It felt like carrying an entirely different future. Before anyone stood, Dad cleared his throat. I don't expect forgiveness. His words were simple. I only wanted you to hear me say that I was wrong. He looked older than he had that morning. Not because of time. Because of honesty. I loved you so much that I convinced myself I had the right to make your choices for you. He shook his head. I never did. I nodded. I know. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. It was acknowledgement. Sometimes that's where healing begins. Daniel stepped toward me next. I don't know if you'll ever trust me again. I don't know either, I answered honestly. He accepted that. There were no promises. No dramatic embraces. Just two siblings standing in the quiet space left behind by the truth. Rachel apologized for remaining silent. She admitted she'd believed Daniel's version without asking questions herself. Aunt Carol quietly confessed that she'd suspected something was wrong years ago but had chosen not to interfere. George simply said, "I should have asked more questions." Megan smiled sadly. I knew pieces. She looked at Grandpa's journal. I didn't know there was an entire story. Neither had I. Before leaving, I asked Mr. Harper if I could keep the journal. He smiled. Walter wanted it to be yours. I held it carefully against my chest. Not as evidence anymore. As a conversation with someone who had loved me enough to write everything down. The drive to Emily's house took just under 2 hours. Rain had stopped by then. The roads were still wet, and the late afternoon sun reflected off the pavement in soft patches of gold. I remember noticing ordinary things. A child riding a bicycle. A grocery store with pumpkins stacked outside. Laundry moving gently on a clothesline. Life had continued while my own had quietly changed. Her home was small. White siding. Blue shutters. A garden filled with lavender. There was a wooden rocking chair on the porch. It reminded me of Grandpa. I stood at the front door longer than I probably needed to. Then I knocked. Footsteps approached. The door opened. The woman standing there looked at me for only a second before placing one hand over her mouth. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. I had seen her face once in an old photograph. She had seen mine every morning in her own mirror. I've been hoping, she whispered, that one day you'd find me. I nodded. So have I. She stepped aside without another word. Inside her living room sat a bookshelf filled with photo albums. One entire shelf. Every single album had a year written neatly across the spine. I reached for the first one. She smiled through tears. I never stopped making them. Page after page held newspaper clippings, school photos, birthday announcements, graduation articles, and photographs that friends had quietly mailed to her over the years. She had missed my childhood. She had not stopped loving me. That difference mattered. We talked until long after the sun had disappeared. Not about blame. About memories. About the years we couldn't recover. And about the years we still had. A month later, our family gathered again. Not for a funeral. For dinner. The chairs were the same. The table was the same. Even Grandpa's old coffee mug still sat in its familiar place. Some seats felt emptier than before. Others felt fuller. Dad apologized again. This time without expecting a response. Daniel listened more than he spoke. Mom and Emily met for the first time in nearly 3 decades. There were tears. There was awkwardness. There was gratitude. None of it happened perfectly. Real families rarely heal all at once. But they can begin. Before everyone left, I walked into Grandpa's study. His reading glasses still rested beside an unfinished crossword puzzle. The photograph in the hallway was hanging perfectly straight. I smiled. Then I opened his journal one last time. On the final page, written in the same careful handwriting I'd known all my life, was one sentence. The truth cannot give you back lost years, but it can give the years ahead an honest beginning. I closed the journal. For the first time since standing outside those church doors, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace.